played by Stanley Tucci, the Tooch, has found,
as he's known,
yes,
in Hollywood circles. Hey, what do you think about the Tooch?
Welcome to Scencast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Scencast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Me.
Me, you.
That was just me warming up.
That's right. For music video sins, Barrett Share.
Hi.
Those were some different ones today.
Yeah, we got to mix it up.
Sometimes you're like, there's only so many ways you can say hello. And then other days you're just like, I'm going to come up with something really fucking weird.
That's right.
And it'll work out just fine.
Just wait and see what I'll be doing in 6 years. It's
Right?
going to be like really fucking weird.
Yeah, it is.
You're gonna figure out how to say it in Swahili.
That's right. We're going to have a regular episode, but we have a really good episode next week, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nice tease.
Yeah, we're gonna
every
revisit.
episode is really good.
We're gonna revisit. This episode's going to be awesome. Don't get me wrong, but next week we're gonna revisit something we have delved into in the past. It's an update. It's like in Unsolved Mysteries where they're like, update. We found that person who killed the guy that we dramatized last week.
Or it's like Mamma Mia, where 10 years later they go, update, there's a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
Meryl
like
Streep is
that.
dead.
Yeah. It's some time has passed. Have you guys gotten really, really fucking angry about something lately?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Yeah.
I feel like we all have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a lot that I'm willing to share with the entire world because plenty of my anger recently is over frivolous, tiny things that are insignificant. But, quarantine anger is different than like non-quarantine anger. Right? One of the things that's frustrating me lately, and this is my own goddamn fault, is that 2 or 3 months ago, I made a conscious decision to put more good stuff in my Twitter timeline. And you do that by following people who tweet good stuff. I have 2 regret follows that I cannot tell you who they are. I don't want to tell you who they are. Please don't go searching through my thing and figure out who it is and then tweet.
It's not me, right?
No, but this is not the point. But the rant is people who tweet 50 to 100 times a day.
That's a lot of tweeting.
First of all, most of the people who do this have a lot of followers. There's a lot of crossover. And so if person A tweets a thing that is very popular, it shows up in my feed 32 times. I may be just trying to see what the news is lately, or if Dicer has tweeted a pun, or if Barrett has tweeted out a puppy photo. But I have to go through all 50 of your goddamn musings, not all of which are epic. And you may be the most delightful person in the world, but I don't want to mute delightful people. Just tweet less. I can't think of a good reason why it should be that open a flow of thoughts from someone's head that 50 or 100 times you go out in one day to say something. Like, I struggle. My goal is to tweet about 5 times a day, and sometimes I can barely get that.
Yeah, I was wondering what the sweet spot was. Is like
I don't
5
know.
around the sweet spot for you?
If I had to guess, the sweet spot, if you want to get a bunch of followers, is to tweet 50 or 100 goddamn times a day. Yeah. And that's why it's being done. But I can't do that to my followers. Like, I have live tweeted some events that you can mute for 24 hours. I usually warn you in advance. But on a daily basis, you don't want to see 50 of my thoughts in your timeline. You want to
You even warned us recently when all the blue checks disappeared for a while. Like, you may want to mute me.
Yeah, exactly. You may want to mute me. I'm about to be stupid. But there are people who I genuinely like, and I want their positivity in my feed. I just don't want so fucking much of it.
I was visiting a relative a few years ago, who was in business with somebody who had some sort of way of making money on Twitter. I guess, and I don't know how Twitter works. All I do is read Twitter. I don't know the machinations of it or anything like that. But I guess you get some sponsored posts and stuff, maybe, or you get something that gets some sort of advertisement. But this guy was talking to me, and he was saying something to the effect of, I need to get this guy to tweet this many times today. He needs to constantly be out there tweeting because that's what makes money. And I guess it almost sounded pyramid schemey in a way, because it almost sounded like he had a bunch of people doing this like for him in a way.
Interesting.
I don't know how that completely. I didn't really get down into asking all of the reasons how this works or anything like that. I just listened to him talk about it.
Let's hear another rant.
Yeah. I hate lines, guys. I hate lines worse than anything.
Like cocaine? Like cocaine lines?
Yeah, I hate those too, especially. I mean, put it in a crack pipe like everybody else does.
Right? What I've said it once, I've said it a million times.
Exactly. You don't need that shit up in your nose. You need to just smoke it like everybody, like a normal person. But no, I hate lines at stores, and like as a person who worked at a movie theater for a long time, I hated it when my own theater would have lines that would build up. Like you would be in customer service or something like that, and you would take a look and you'd see this line that was like 10 deep, and you'd see a manager. And I know that, like, your company, especially like people like, Regal and everything, would be like, well, the managers aren't supposed to be on the registers. It's only the underlings that are supposed to do that. You're supposed to supervise and all that. I'm sorry. Break that rule. Break it every time. There's no reason why you should let 10 people sit there while one person struggles with a popcorn. And so like, I would see this all the time with this one particular manager. It would just drive me crazy. She'd sit there and like, be like cleaning stuff and everything. And like, you're sitting there like, there's 10 fucking people in line, and you're just like, doing something that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so yesterday I went to PetSmart. I had a great day yesterday up until PetSmart. I went to the grocery store. I got my groceries, and then I was like, okay, I need to go to PetSmart. I need to get some cat food and everything. The PetSmart is right next door to the Publix. I went into PetSmart. There wasn't anybody really in there. It didn't feel like. I was like, oh my God, this is so great. Went in, got the stuff that I needed really quick, came back. There was a line 5 deep already by the time I got back. And I didn't understand. It didn't make any sense to me. And they had one register open. And I saw other people when I came in. I saw other people working at the store when I walked in. They had a table full of like, hand sanitizer and shit like that. There's one guy's setting that shit up. And there was probably one or two that I ran across as I was going and getting my stuff. I just don't know. I don't pretend to know what a store values in their employees or whatever, but I feel like if you're just stocking something, who gives a shit, man? You have all day to stock. Go clean up this mess of, and I stood in line long enough because the person who was in the front of the line was having to do something with some sort of coupon book or some shit, and that drives me up the fucking wall. I noticed as I was standing in line, I turned around and like another 5 or 6 people had gotten behind me even. And I was like, is anybody going to come up and like do a register finally? And finally someone did, but like every person that came up, here's the other part of the equation. Every person that came up seemed to have something that was non-cashier related. Like they weren't going up there and giving an item to be scanned and put in the bag. They had a question to ask, or they had to get the cashier to like leave their post just to go find something. And you're just like, there are so many people in the store you could have done that with instead of standing in line the whole time. And, you would see people. This is the other thing. You'll see people like the person in front of me or like two in front of me turned around and did this whole like, oh my God, this is kind of fucked up, right? And like, then that person got up to the register and they had something stupid and special to like do. It's complete unawareness and everything. Yeah. So anyway, that's the thing. I don't understand. I feel like businesses value some other sort of bullshit over getting the people out the door. And I don't understand that. Like, just have, you make everything run so much smoother when you have everybody just getting out the door instead of doing your price tags or whatever the fuck you're doing.
Well, yeah, that's your top priority is getting them out.
You know who's good at this is Publix. Now, granted, Publix concentrates on customer service as much as anything, and more than Kroger does or Walmart for sure. I'm going to piggyback on your story. I hate lines. I hate grocery lines. I hate them, especially during a pandemic. They're extra anxious. But the other day, before I went to the store, I had a Xanax. Now, I'm not recommending people take drugs, but this is the first time in 20 years a line has not annoyed me. I'm standing behind a woman, God love her. The melon is $2.99 in the ad, but it's ringing up $3.99. Her entire order is 2 melons. And she turns to me and says, I'm sorry. And I'd been there. I'd been there for 10 minutes. My shit is all on the rack. And I literally said, I don't even have any idea what's going on. I'm good. And I was like as chill as I have ever been. But Publix opened up 2 other lanes for everybody that had piled up behind me. And by the time I checked out, everybody was checked out. And I was very impressed. And more stores should do that because I swear to God, sometimes in Kroger, used to work for Kroger, not bashing them, I swear I can see people hiding. I swear I can see people like hiding from the lines so they don't get called to come bag or open a register. And it kind of makes me angry.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Your wife used to work at Barnes & Noble, right, Jeremy?
Yep.
When I was at Barnes & Noble back 20 years ago, we were mandated, if the line got beyond 3 people, we had to call like a code 9 or something like that. And that meant another cashier, another bookseller had to come up to, we're all generalists. It's not like there's a stock person and there's a this and there's a that and all that stuff. There's a manager and then there's the rest of us. Cafe is cafe. That's a different story. But the rest of us are booksellers. And if somebody calls a code 9 or whatever it was called, then, and you go beyond 3 customers and you're the only one up there, that somebody's got to go up there. Another 3 customers, same thing. I don't know if that's still the case, but it should be mandated within that. And none of us really bitched about it. I mean, we didn't necessarily we liked stocking the books and looking at shit and stuff like that and fiddle farting around. But if there's one person up there with 9 customers, you're screwing that one person and you're screwing those other 8 people that aren't getting help,
I will say, I only had experience working at Kroger as far as groceries go, but Kroger is data obsessed. And so they're part of the problem is that it's from corporate structure. Anytime you hop on a register, you end up, when you're done, with a score. A ring tender score. How fast did you ring up everything you were supposed to ring up? And if your score is bad, you get docked, and it's another way to keep from getting a raise. And so I personally know when I was a manager, there were kids that did not want to hop on register because they didn't want to just add one more thing for them to be scruticed for on that shift.
Bullshit.
God damn. Yeah, that's a good motivation.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, exactly. I'm just saying that's how it happens sometimes. It's not necessarily, I mean, the kid who's hiding should stop hiding, but the corporate structure created the reason why he's hiding.
Yeah, I'll say that, at movie theaters, like, I remember when I was in New York at Atlas Park, man, that we had the way that structure was, it was an outdoor mall and it was like a square, basically. And there wasn't any space to put like customers who were waiting to go into the movie. Like there was the theater was very small, an 8 screen, the lobby was very small. And so whenever we had a big movie that had 300 people about to go into it. There wasn't any place to put them except outside. And like there were a lot of experiments there, like lining them up on the stairs, which was a no, and lining them up just down below the stairs and everything. But then people would just walk past that line and fuck things up. But there wasn't really any good way of doing it. I suggested something that everybody was like, "No, that won't work." Okay, let's just not try it then. And so like. I remember one time a bunch of ushers went in to clean this one auditorium. We had 300 people waiting outside, and I was threading the movie up, and one of the managers, the assistant managers, and one of the ushers, with the lights still up and the theater clean, just sat down and just started talking for a while there was this big huge line of people waiting to come in the auditorium, and it just infuriated me. And started talking a lot of shit too around the theater about that too.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, I just came downstairs and I was like, you believe this bullshit? Manager's in there sitting there talking to an usher the whole time. Fucking bullshit, guys. Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant.
All right, I got something kind of tech based too. And I'm sure I've talked about it before, or we've talked about it before, but it seems like it's happening. Maybe it's quarantine and pandemic related. It seems like it's happening more lately. The scourge of serial texting. And what I mean by that is, hey, how's it going? Immediately. Did you hear this new album? Immediately. Did you see this new movie? Immediately. It's really good. Immediately. What do you think about this performance? Immediately. And I swear to God, I'm getting 5, 6, 7 texts in a row before I can respond. Now, the caveat is you can see, on an iPhone at least, you can see the 3 little dots where you can see if somebody's responding. Okay? You can see if I'm typing out like a thing saying, yeah, I did see that movie. If you then proceed to send another text and another text, you're not interested in my response, right? So why are you texting me in the first place? You should send one text, and maybe I'm on an island here. I think you should send one text, wait for a response. In weird contingencies, you can either send a follow-up text related to that first text, or basically saying, or a clarification text or something like that. 2 is the limit. 5 is right out.
It's not fucking email, man. It's a text. Right?
And
don't email me.
It's like if I talk to you, if I'm literally looking at you and I ask you 5 questions in a row, what question do you want me to answer?
Yeah, you know who communicates like that? 5-year-olds. Hey, what you doing? What you doing? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Mine's pink.
Well, this is coming from people that I respect, that I love, and that are friends of mine, that are family. And it's like, I don't understand the mentality. And again, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't understand how you communicate like that. Like, what question do you want me to respond to? Do you want me to respond to the last one or to the first one first and then go through sequentially? But then if you respond, there'll be another wall of sequential text. And I don't understand the mentality of it, especially with people who can converse like normal people. Have you guys run into this at all?
Yes. I have one friend that does it, but I don't communicate with him often.
Because of that?
No, just because of life circumstances. But you're absolutely right. I don't even think this is a subjective issue. I think this is an entirely objective, fact-based issue. Don't do it.
It's logistic. Yeah, I don't know what to respond to or how to communicate using this method, right?
Yeah.
There is one person that and I'm the same as Jeremy. I don't talk to this person that often, but there is one person who will text me about movies every once in a while, and I'll say, no, I haven't seen that or whatever, and then there'll be another text about something, and I'll start responding to that, and then the subject changes while I'm in the middle of that response.
Yes.
And then so that the subject changes, and then I'll go to answer that, and then he'll answer the thing from the first thing that I said.
Oh,
This is no way to communicate.
Yeah.
well, and
This is
also,
no way to communicate.
where I thought you were going was it's not an email. It's also not an open phone call. You make a text, I respond when I respond, but it does not give you permission. You do not have my complete attention now just because I have texted you back, and we are now like having a phone call over words with type. That's not how it works. There's a different medium for that. It's called a phone. Fucking use it. Call me.
I've gotten to the point where even on our Slack channel, where if I see one person is typing, or definitely if two people are typing, I'm going to shut the fuck up.
Yep.
I wait.
Then it becomes lots of people are talking. And I'm like, what the fuck is going to happen with this? There's going to be a wall of text and everybody's responding to different things. I'm going to wait until everything settles down. And then if I need to respond, then I will respond.
It's out of control when you have to at somebody to respond to something they said like 6 lines up.
Yeah.
Now that happens occasionally, but I try to mitigate that.
That's the
and
way
certainly
it is
on text.
all the time on Discord, by the way. Whenever somebody has addressed me about something, like by the time I see it, usually there's been like 40 other like entries, and like they're on to like 3 different topics. And then I go and I'm like, okay, I was actually notified of something. So I go and scroll through all of these things. And then I'm like, oh, it's like, I heard you talking about this movie on the Scencast. I just watched it. And I go past all this wall of text. They're sitting there talking about zebras and giraffes and shit. And then so like I go down and I'm like, yeah, I love that movie too.
That's one of the only real advantages of Reddit, I guess, is that you can respond directly to that comment, right?
Yeah. It's threaded. Yeah. It's a threaded discussion.
Threaded Reddit.
And they all of them have their benefits and downfalls. It's just, use each communication tool the correct way, please.
Correct. And when it comes to text, and especially, you've got no excuse with the iPhone. If somebody either doesn't respond or you see the 3 dots, stop your thumbs from moving. Or if you got a pointy finger text thing, don't do that.
With jagged, pointy teeth.
See, I think the movies are making this worse because in the movies, when somebody texts somebody, they respond immediately and then they have a whole conversation.
That's true. That's true.
I gotta remember the show's name now.
Euphoria?
No. It's close. That's close though. It's the one. Why can't I think of this name? I'm the only person who's seen this show, and I bet if I bring it up, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's this." The one. It's the faux documentary comedy series that was on Netflix for 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, the poo.
Yeah, well, yeah, the one
American
of one.
Vandal.
Yeah, American Vandal. So on American Vandal, the 2nd season, this is what was so brilliant about that show, and why I'm so upset that they didn't make more of these and everything, is that they would take these slices of life, like the 3 dot thing, and turn it into a whole thing. And like they would be like, someone would text the investigators or whatever, and they would be like, and he would be about to say something. He's like, no. You don't want to start typing now. They'll see the 3 dot thing. You don't want to see the 3 dot thing yet. There's this whole big discussion. Like everything that kids use, everything that we use in modern society and everything, they have some sort of there's some sort of thought process they have to go through to solve some of these things. It's really great. So
that's some solid ranting right there.
I think so, man. That's some of the best ranting we've done in weeks.
Mm-hmm. Anybody got any warns?
Totes amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Oh, fuck yeah!
Oh, sounds like Barrett wants to talk about.
I think Jeremy should go first because we've all seen his first recommend, right?
Sure. Let's just call it our recommend because I want to save my own. I want to have my own personal recommend. But we all have seen and recommend the HBO documentary directed by Alex Winter called Showbiz Kids.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting look at what it's like to grow up a child star. It left me with the impression that anyone who ends up a normal adult after that experience is probably overachieving. There is some very frank talk. I don't mean R-rated. I just mean some very honest talk, particularly from Evan Rachel Wood and Will Wheaton. Both have moments where I'm like, I cannot believe they actually said that. But they all said similar things. I think almost everybody they actually interviewed who's still alive that was a child star at some point in their interview said, and that's when I stopped trusting everybody. That was a recurring theme for me. I've seen this now 3 times. I watched it once. I watched it with my wife, and then it was on again yesterday, and I watched most of it. It's just fascinating. You guys saw it. Weigh in.
Yeah. It obviously you're not going to keep hearing. You're not going to hear a lot of varied stories in here because, like you said, everybody inevitably comes to the same kinds of conclusions, and people think that you're way more mature than you are, and they start treating you like that. This is especially true with Mila Jovovich, who was discovered as a model like when she was 12 or 13 or something like that. And they could make her up to look like she was 19 or 20 years old in her picture.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of her beginnings into that whole thing. And people started, thinking that she was that kind of age and everything. And she says, she makes an allusion to, I had all this trouble with guys and stuff like that. And she doesn't get into detail, but that there was some serious bullshit going on with Mila Jovovich, especially since, and they just kind of lightly touch on this, she went and eloped with that dude from Dazed and Confused that who played, what's his name? He's the guy who was supposed to have the party in Dazed and Confused at his house. And she eloped with that guy when she was 17 years old. And so there were a lot of different things, and it's amazing to watch her now. She's like 45 years old, and she's she seems like she has adjusted to all of that, but she went through some shit.
She seems like she's kind of, it's weird, come to terms with it. Like it seems like she's more jovial about all this stuff than even somebody older like Henry Thomas. I guess Henry Thomas is older than her, right?
Yeah, a few years. Just a few years.
Henry Thomas still seems bitter. Will Wheaton even seems fairly bitter. Evan Rachel Wood seems bitter. And I don't mean bitter in a wrong way, because they're justifiably bitter about certain things. A lot of them still continue to have sometimes a great career, like Jada Pinkett Smith is on there. She was a child star. Mila Jovovich still has a very good career. Evan Rachel Wood obviously has a terrific career going right now. Mara Wilson, who's on there, has chosen to stop acting, at least for the moment, right? And
I don't think she's that interested in doing that anymore. I mean, she was the quintessential child star.
Yeah. And
when she started to get into her awkward teenager phase and everything, that's when Hollywood stopped wanting her in movies anymore. This is the thing Henry Thomas is talking about, was like he was walking into auditions when he was 18 and they were all expecting E.T. Henry Thomas to show up.
Yeah.
So
I love that story he tells about Drew Barrymore coming up to him on the E.T. set and saying, "How many movies have you been in?" And he said, "Well, this is my first. How about you?" And she said, "Well, this is my fourth." And the interviewer says, "How old was she?" And he's like, 6.
Yeah.
And it's. I also want to talk about real quick that a couple of them, but specifically Evan Rachel Wood talks about because of the talent, they won't let you be a kid anymore. And she there's this heartbreaking sequence where she says, talented actresses, serious actresses, don't want to go outside and play. So if I ever felt like I just wanted to go outside and play, that was deemed, unacceptable. They were disappointed in me because I'm supposed to be about the serious crap, but she's still just a little kid. I'm not going to lie, man. A lot of this rang true for me as a preacher's kid, not to say that it's on any level the same, but just that within a church, the preacher's kid is somewhat treated like a celebrity on that local community level, to the point where, you know, I was supposed to sit still in Sunday school class. I wasn't supposed to be fidgety. I wasn't supposed to want to go outside and play. I was supposed to act straight. I'm the preacher's kid. You got to act straight. I even texted another preacher's kid I know who saw this movie and said, tell me that this rang true for you. And this person said yes. Again, not the same level or anything, but I think the idea that I came away with is that we are doing more damage to our kids than we think when we let them have fans. I even was talking to my wife about the high school star quarterback probably feels this way. Like the whole thing about, does this person want to be my friend because I'm popular, or does this person want to be my friend because they actually want to be my friend? All those child stars said that. And I think you can feel that on a micro level, even in everyday life. If you are on any level a celebrity in your community, it can be very hard to trust who your real friends are. And I think that makes this documentary super relatable.
Yeah, it's really good, really interesting, and I think we all highly recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were having a discussion about the best Rock movies, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies, and one of the ones that came up was Pain and Gain. And I hadn't seen it in forever, but just sort of to add more clarity to what we were doing in that discussion, I watched the movie again, and Michael Bay is not the type of guy that I really like to come out and full throat recommend any movie that he makes, because most of his movies are dumb, and this movie certainly has a lot of Michael Bay in it, man. It's so Michael Bay, you might as well have thrown a Transformer in it somewhere. But
just lurking in the background,
right? Just in the background, smoking a cigarette, something. But Pain and Gain is about this fitness trainer played by Mark Wahlberg and his buddy Anthony Mackie. And they want to steal this one client's possessions, his money, and everything. It's played by Tony Shalhoub. And they get one last guy to come in, and that's Dwayne Johnson plays this guy who is just out of jail. And he's found Christ and everything, and he doesn't want to do anything else. He was in jail because of drugs, and he thinks he's on his way to going back to being in a normal life again. But he runs into Mark Wahlberg and Anthony Mackie, and they have this scheme to kidnap this guy and basically take all of his shit by writing up contracts and having him sign it and have a notary and all this other stuff. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. Of course, it comes out of Florida.
It's a real story, right?
Yeah, it's a real story that happened. I don't know how much they embellished on this. It is Michael Bay, and it's very satirical. It's just funny, and the stupidity of these people. I feel like Michael Bay should make this movie more often, but this is by far and away one of his least grossing films he's ever made in his life. So there's a reason why he won't make more of these. But man, some of the stuff, just some of the casual throwaway lines in it and everything. Anthony Mackie at one point is in the room while Mark Wahlberg, who's completely in over his head, he thinks he's a genius, man. He thinks he's a criminal genius. He's like sitting there like, we'll do this and we'll do that, and then we'll have all the money. And he's like, and Anthony Mackie was like, it's like, I knew he was bullshitting, but I knew we were going to be rich afterwards. Is the narration that goes on. I knew he didn't know what he was talking about, but I didn't care. I was going to be rich. And there's a point where he's got Anthony Mackie's got he's got a sex toy in front of him, and it's rotating around and shit. And he's like, man, some of the machinery in this is really sophisticated. So it's really funny, and it's really good. And I think it's only got like a 6.3 on the IMDb, but people are wrong a lot of times, or I'm just more open to some movie like this, and it's insane. It's exactly what you expect is going on in Florida all the time, and it's so entertaining. It's one of my. It's got to be, along with like The Island, which is another underseen Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
It's got to be up there at the top of his movies for me.
What are we looking at? Is The Island number one for Michael Bay movies?
Look, The Island. Look,
it ain't perfect.
It ain't perfect, but I love that movie. I also still appreciate the first Transformers movie, bloated as it is.
Yeah.
It has a charm to me that is completely erased by the second through the 15th Transformers movies.
Well, and some people will put Bad Boys,
the first
original
Bad Boys. Yep.
And I still like The Rock, as dumb as it is. The Rock is still up there.
Yeah, The Rock is probably the top for me.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is I haven't seen Pain and Gain, but that to me is the perfect mix of Michael Bay craziness versus like actual, almost like over the top to where it's comedic performances, and that sounds like what you're talking about here.
Yeah. I it's one of those, like, if you haven't seen that, give it a look. Maybe it'll develop a decent following at some point. I kind of hope it does.
Do you think there's a future where, to either end the franchise or bring it back to life, Michael Bay directs a Fast and Furious movie?
Oh God, worlds would collide.
I'm just saying, would that not be a sell?
There's certainly a world where he would direct one of those movies.
I can see the trailer now.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Bay directs.
A lot of cars flipping over in slow motion.
Fucking A, man. They're the same fucking universe anyway. Every single one of his movies takes place in the Fast and Furious universe. There's no question.
It's like in 1992 when Guns N' Roses and Metallica toured together. Like, it's too much rock. Worlds are colliding too much. It's like splitting the atom.
Yes.
Anyway,
you got something, Barrett?
I got to check that one out. Yes. Okay. So I've got a bunch of recommends, man. I've got some good ones.
Me too.
But I just recently saw, this actually happened yesterday as of this recording. We're recording on Tuesday. The reunion of one of my favorite movies, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Mm-hmm.
This was all for charity, peopleforwater.org, bringing water to underserved areas around the world. So it was all for a good cause, but it's also badass. What happened was Edgar Wright somehow pulled off, with Universal's blessing and Universal saying, I don't know if they helped facilitate or whatever, most of the cast, the originator of the comic book, Brian Lee O'Malley, his co-writer, Mark Platt, and almost all the cast. You've got Anna Kendrick, who's playing both her regular character, Stacy, Scott's sister, and also Brie Larson's character, which is hilarious. You've got Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Chris Evans comes back. Allison Pill is there. Aubrey Plaza is hilariously there. She literally has a prop that, you know, when she curses in the movie and there's a black bar that comes up, she has a prop like on a stick, like a black bar, like a construction paper, where she pulls it up.
Does she even do the sound effect?
No, there's a bleep on there that they did in post, I'm sure. Jason Schwartzman is here, not only doing his Gideon thing, he's literally wearing a T-shirt with his own face on it.
Awesome.
Which is the most Jason Schwartzman thing that you could ever imagine.
Yes, it is.
Ellen Wong is there, which is great. Satya Baba, who played Matthew Patel, is there. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'll tell you why. Because I like this movie, obviously, a whole lot. But what this read-through does, it's all via Zoom. It's all pandemic-related and all that stuff, and it's all for charity. What they do is Brian Lee O'Malley is literally sketching the scene as they're reading the scene. And by the end of the scene, he holds it up and they auction that thing off for charity. And they're all amazing. They're all beautiful. And then you've got the sound effects. You've got the music. You've got Brandon Routh, by the way, has not aged. And literally Chris Evans says, why hasn't Routh aged? And this is like in Captain America. Why hasn't Superman aged in the last 10 years? And he hasn't. He's wearing the same like 3 jersey from the movie and everything. He's got a bass and that he's playing and like pointing at the camera and stuff like that.
Awesome.
The best part about this thing is Michael Cera is there and doing his Scott Pilgrim stuff, but how much they crack each other up. And that's the reason to watch this, is that they'll read lines like, you once were a vegan, now you be gone, and everybody just fucking like loses it. Like even Edgar Wright will lose it. It is absolutely fantastic. It's on YouTube right now. It's an hour and a half. It's the whole thing right now. Do it, and if you do it now, they don't have like the paywall of having to donate to peopleforwater.org, but you should do that, and I did do that. I tell you what, if you haven't seen this movie before and you know Chris Evans, of course you know Chris Evans from Captain America. He is maybe rivaling Keanu Reeves as one of the most likable dudes in Hollywood from what I've seen in interviews and things like this. But his part in this movie is fucking hilarious. He's playing an action star. And he even does, Chris, you've seen this a million times. He does the eyebrow thing. He can still do that thing where they're like almost in a V. And suddenly he becomes less Captain America and literally this Johnny Blaze or whatever the fuck he is. Lucas Lee is the guy's name.
I just want to hear him say they're the ones who do all the dangerous stuff while I'm getting blazed in my Winnie.
Yeah. He's like reading off his iPhone. His dog is jumping on him. He's like, when I get blazed in my Winnie. It is absolutely fantastic. Go to YouTube and look up Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It was actually Entertainment Weekly, I think, put it on. It's fantastic. If you like the movie, even if you don't like the movie, it's worth it just to get kind of like the interaction between these people. You could tell that they really enjoyed working with each other. Edgar Wright, I'd never heard really like talk or give interviews and stuff like that. Chris, you probably listened to a bunch of commentary.
No, I've only heard the one that was on the Police Story Blu-ray where they got him for, because he was a big fan of the movie or whatever. But that was the only time I've ever heard him talk. It was the first time I'd seen him or knew what he looked like, was on that Police Story interview.
He is so engaging. He is so charismatic. He's reading all the stage instructions. He's reading all the exteriors and interiors and that kind of thing. And you can tell why people respond to him, because every time he's cracking everybody up too. Every time he says something, like everybody kind of snaps to attention. He's just got one of those personalities where you can tell he would be an excellent conductor on set. You know what I mean? Where it's like, especially with a cast like this, even before they were well known, like, you need to do this, you need to do this, especially with that kinetic editing and that kinetic acting and stuff like that. Even in this read-through, they had the timing down. It may have been edited down, but there was times where you could hear them jumping on the back of each other's lines, just falling into that rhythm. And that's an Edgar Wright kind of specialty, is that dialogue.
It's been a thing that they've been doing during the quarantine. You have the Josh Gad thing, the like Back Together Apart or something like that, or whatever it's called, where they got the cast of Ferris Bueller back, and they got the cast of what was the other one that I saw Ferris Bueller one, and there were a lot of these like 80s movies and everything that they find the cast, however many years later, and talk about their experiences on it and everything. It's all good stuff. It's all all of it's charity from what I understand. More recommends?
Let's bring it, baby.
I'm going to recommend 2 things. One really quick. I'm playing a new PS4 game called Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh.
It is an open world samurai game. I am about 2 hours into it, and it is the single most beautiful video game I've ever played in my life. There are entire scenes that feel like paintings, like art. The landscape, the colors, and the gameplay is really freaking cool. I'm enjoying the hell of it. Big recommend. Now, for the real recommend. I'm ready. It's a rec of Warren in text, but in spirit, it's a recommend, and it's Charlie's Angels 2019.
Oh, God.
I have now seen this movie, and I want to talk about this very specifically. I've now seen this movie about 8 or 9 times. Now, every single viewing has been background viewing. And I think that is the only way to watch this movie, so that you can turn your head and go, oh, this scene's really clever, and then go back to what you were doing for another scene, and then turn your head and go, oh, Kristen Stewart's really funny in this scene. And you can take the bite sizes that are good and miss the stretches that are kind of saggy. But Kristen Stewart is having more fun here than I've ever seen her have.
I've never seen her have fun.
Well, and maybe that's what's so delightful about it. Is you ever see a performance where you're just like, that actor was having a blast, and it's just evident. And I think in a lot of ways she was allowed to play herself, both with personality, sexuality. Naomi Scott, who you might remember from the live action Aladdin film, which was terrible, is in this. She's really charming. There's a scene in the middle where they go to like a safe house, and the guy that their Q is also their spiritual healer, and he almost steals the movie. It's Luis Gerardo Mendez, giving me shades of Hank Azaria in Birdcage.
Nice, I saw that last night.
Yeah, and he says, now I understand the circumstances that brought you here were stressful. And we get a close up on her, and she goes, so stressful, and I just want to hug her. She's freaking adorable. There are things that don't work. There's a couple of stunt castings that pretty much signal what's going on. But I find it super enjoyable. I bet if I had to sit down and watch it from beginning to end, I would not enjoy it very much. It's probably a C+ or a B- movie. But in bites, I'm falling in love with it. To the music cues now, if I'll hear them when I'm not even looking, I'll know it's like Pavlov's bell. I'll go like, oh yes, I want to watch this scene. This is the scene where they do the stuff. I warn it because, in an official capacity, if I recommend it, they'll come take my card. But I do love it. I'm full on now, man.
Do you know what the story is? Like what the? Have you watched?
I've seen it enough
all
now
the way through.
Oh, absolutely.
Like total.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Naomi Scott is a girl who works for this tech company that has created this product called Callisto. And it is basically free energy. That's the intent, is that it's this little hexagonal dongle that sits on your desk and can zap electricity wirelessly to all your devices. But it has a flaw. It can also be used as an EMP to kill humans by zapping their brainwaves. And there are some bad guys who might want to use that. So the angels go to steal it, but it's already been stolen. Dun, dun, dun.
By Crispin Glover.
No, but actually playing the Crispin Glover role is Jonathan Tucker, who has been in a lot of TV shows. He's on Westworld, and he's all tatted up and looking tough here. I remember him from Virgin Suicides and The Ruins. He's definitely playing the Crispin Glover role here. And Naomi Scott is not an angel, but because she knows so much about this Callisto product and they want to kill her, the angels take her in. Of course, by the end, she becomes an angel. I love it. I love it. I love it. Warts and all, flaws and all, misuse of Jaimon Hansu and all. I love it.
This was directed by Elizabeth Banks, right?
It was. And that, I have nothing to say about that. Yeah. She does a fine job. She's also one of the lead roles. She's playing Bosley. To these girls. And supposedly, according to this movie, this takes place in the same universe as all previous incarnations of Charlie's Angels. And this movie tells us there are multiple Bosleys around the world with their own teams of angels. So there you go.
All right.
There's a very, very funny scene where Kristen Stewart and the other gal, I can't remember her name because I'm an asshole, go to the bad guy's safe, and you think they're going to break into the safe. And you get a POV of the safe's buttons, and you see Kristen Stewart reach up her fingers and go beep boop blop boop beep boop blop boop beep, and she just hits a bunch of random buttons because they're actually trying to draw the security team into that room. And it's just a funny little comedic moment, and I don't know.
I haven't seen this yet. I'm not opposed to seeing this. Hey, Chris, have you seen it yet?
No, but I have it waiting for me.
It's on Stars. It's on Stars.
I've got a 4K Charlie's Angels with my name on it.
There's at least one scene I would really like to watch in 4K.
Yeah. I think I may know what you're talking about. Was it in the trailer?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm ready to go public.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Mubi.
Mubi. Listen to the chuckles.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. What kind of movie are you going to talk about, Chuckles?
Yeah, go ahead. Hey, discuss the movies that you have watched, Barrett, because those are I think I've watched. I've overlapped on a couple of those.
Man, there's such a good lineup. So they have a library. Mubi does. It's a streaming curated service, and they've got a library, but they also have the regular, normal 30 movie lineup that they keep replacing one movie every day. And there's some stuff that you wouldn't be exposed to. Right now, there was one called A Tribute to Malcolm X.
Yep.
Now, I've seen the Spike Lee movie Malcolm X, and I've seen interviews with the real Malcolm X before. I've read about Malcolm X before. This is very much a straightforward piece by a guy, a news report almost, by a guy who was influenced by Malcolm X. And basically is, I don't want to say dispassionate, but observant of his impact after he died, 4 years after he died. There's an interview with his widow, Betty Shabazz, and there is archival footage about, what he's done, the impact that he's had on society before he died. And it ends on probably a 6 or 7 minute speech that he gave multiple times, actually. And I'm not going to quote the speech whatsoever. It actually does show up in the movie Malcolm X in a different context. But when you watch this guy at work in the middle of his oration, there is nothing more compelling. You could see why he touched so many people. He was such a skilled orator. And I can't speak to the content of it because obviously the message is not necessarily for me in quotations, but I can speak to the way it made me feel. And it made me feel absolutely just transfixed with the words, with the context in the mid to late 60s, and in the struggle that you could see from him and his constituents. And I got to tell you, for a short, 16-minute film, it absolutely impacted me. And it's from a perspective that I certainly would never have on my own.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting, you said it's like a news report. It does feel like this section was cut out of a longer thing. And they've just crafted it into this 16 minutes of here's Malcolm X, and everything. And it is fascinating for sure. Definitely worth a look. I went a little bit more mainstream, with the one that, I'm going to talk about. This movie, came out of France in 2006 called Tell No One.
Ooh, I wanted to watch this one.
I love murder mystery stuff, guys. I love it so much, and stuff that has this like sort of complex sort of situations with a lot of red herrings thrown in and stuff like that. I love that type of stuff, but it's about a man and his wife who have known each other since they were kids. They've basically been in love since they were kids. And they go to this well-known place that is a part of their childhood, and sort of as a getaway and everything. And they go out skinny dipping, and they have the sex, and they're lying there, and his wife says something to the effect of like you ignored your sister last night. There was some sort of tension with your sister, so on and so forth. And they get in kind of an argument, and she jumps into the water and swims away from him, and says, let's cool down a little bit. But then he hears a noise out in the woods, and he knows that there's some danger of some sort. He tries to swim across, and once he gets onto the pier on the other side, he gets just hammered, just hit in the head, in the chest, and he gets knocked into the water. And then the movie goes straight to 8 years later. and a couple of bodies have been found, and they're in that same area, and it's brought up a whole bunch of stuff again because apparently back in when his wife died, the police thought that he did it. And now that these two new bodies have shown up, that has brought up some more questions, and they start suspecting him again. And in a way, it's like the French Taken 3. I don't want to downgrade this. This movie came out well before any Taken movie came out, and it's way better. But it's got that same kind of thing because the guy is wrongfully accused and running away and all that, but there's all these little pieces that keep coming together, and you're like, wait a minute, what's that all about? Holy crap! And then just some other thing out of context comes up, and you're like, how does that fit in? And then more and more stuff gets piled on until, of course, everything is solved by the end, and it keeps. Even when you think it's like had its moment where it's like, okay, we know what's going on, there's even more twists and everything. It's great. It's great. Wow. Great movie. But I don't know if it'll be on the 30-day, but it's the type of movie that you can see. It's the type of movie you can see on Mubi, and it's great. And and hopefully it'll be on the library afterwards, and you can watch it there. But that was a great movie, and they have a whole bunch of stuff right now that is worth checking out.
All over the place. Germany, Chad, Brazil. I actually watched a short film from Brazil called Breakwater. I won't go into, but it definitely had. It's a documentary short that had a very unique perspective from an LGBTQ, I say perspective again, and it's fascinating. India, I mean, these are things that you won't get exposed to any other place. If you go to Mubi.com, M-U-B-I, M with the double, MUBI.com /Cinemasins, that's I'm kidding. Cinemasins, you get 30 days free of all this wonderfulness. The 30 movies that there's a new one added every day, and the library, and you will be bathed in cinematic body wash.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. It's wonderful. Mubi.com /Cinemasins, 30 days free, not a red cent from you people for all this cinematic goodness. You're welcome.
When we interviewed Stacey Martin, I went back and watched some of her movies, and one that came out was directed by Michel Hazanavicius, I believe is his name. It's
he approved it.
Yeah, she did. He was the director of The Artist that won Best Picture back in 2011. He made a movie called Godard Mon Amour, and it's about Jean-Luc Godard, and it's about when he got married to one of his actresses from a movie called La Chinoise that he made at the time, and it's based on her autobiography. And it's more about him, really. I guess her perspective of him during this time that they were married. Louis Garrel, I don't know how it's pronounced, how he pronounces it. He was in Little Women last year. He was, I can't remember that character name. It's whoever Gabriel Byrne plays in the other version of it. But he was in that movie last year. He plays Jean-Luc Godard, and it's an interesting movie if you really like, French cinema and everything, and you like the Godard stuff and everything. It's got some cheeky moments to Godard's own films in there. There's a lot of inside jokes. There's a point where Garrel as Jean-Luc Godard is it's talking about actors and how stupid they are, and it's I could get an actor to say that he's stupid on screen. They're so stupid, and and you take that for what it is. It's an actor saying he's stupid on a movie. But it's the period of time where Godard was not particularly fond of his own work, and he felt like he wanted to. He needed to branch out. There was a revolution going on in France at the time. He wanted to be a part of that, and he wanted to be a voice there. But a lot of the things that he was saying back in those days were not treated very kindly by the students that were running that whole thing. He wanted to be a part of it, but he just didn't have the chops to be a part of it. But he very much wanted to be serious about things. And people would come up to him in the street and saying, I love this movie and I love this movie. And you could see that he was just bothered by it. But Louis Garrel is great in it. Stacey Martin is great. She doesn't get much to do in the movie really, because she is like sort of the like neglected wife in this thing, because he's so far up his own ass this whole time that, he's just an asshole, and it can be entertaining asshole, but it can also be like, what a dick. I can't stand this guy, asshole. But it's worth watching. I wasn't sure that it had come over to the States, but Stacey Martin assured us that it did. But I wanted to recommend it just because it's a movie that just kind of probably went under everybody's radar and everything. And if you're really into the French cinema stuff like I am, you'll enjoy this movie for what it is. And it's
so
really
this
good.
Is this at the transition before he moves into the new wave?
I think the new wave had started.
Yeah, I don't know what that line of demarcation is.
Yeah, I don't know either at this point where he's made a lot of his great films at this point. The stuff like Breathless, that's all been made at this point. I don't know where he goes from here actually, because I'm not as familiar with the stuff once it gets past this period. But I think the new wave had happened. It was in the middle of it. Or had happened. There's an interesting juxtaposition, and I don't know if Michel Hazanavicius meant to do this, but Louis Garrel was also in The Dreamers. And The Dreamers was set during that whole French Revolution thing, and he plays a character along with Ava Green and Michael Pitt. He's one of the people in that apartment. That movie was directed by Bernardo Bertolucci. And there's a point where Louis Garrel, as Jean-Luc Godard, is talking to somebody playing Bernardo Bertolucci. So I just thought that was pretty fun. I don't know if that was on purpose or what, but that must have been something for him to be talking to somebody who was acting as the director he's worked with before. Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of just, like I said, it's a lot of inside stuff, inside jokes and stuff like that. But it's a well-made, entertaining movie.
You ever seen The Dreamers?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of it?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in forever.
I tell you what, it didn't.
I didn't like it.
I was going to say my boner didn't like it, and I may have only watched it because of my boner. Isn't that the movie with all the explicit
boner
sex?
very much enjoyed The Dreamers. I'm not sure my mind enjoyed it.
See, it's the opposite for me. Those scenes where they were intentionally embarrassing Michael, what's his name, and his
with the picture on his penis and all that.
It was all very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting film.
I need to see it again because it's been forever since I've seen it, and I bet I would get more out of it now that I wasn't just because back in the day when it came out, all I wanted to see was just naked people.
Yeah, I mean that was the pull. Bertolucci also did Stealing Beauty, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so it had a very similar vibe, very different because one is set in the city and one is set in the countryside and everything, but it had a very similar dreamlike vibe to it.
Well, yeah, and he has two scenes in both of those movies. Don't ask me how I know this, but I've seen these movies enough to know, I guess. But there are two there in both movies in where somebody is losing their virginity. They always ask, "Can you help me? Can you help me with this or whatever?" Like, can you help guide me or whatever? They in both movies there are scenes like that. The Dreamers. I will say there is one shot of Ava Green that I love in this, and it is a nude scene, but it's very like artistic, and I think it's well done. She comes out of she comes out of the room, and she's got these black sleeves on, and she looks like the Venus de Milo when she comes in.
It's absolutely beautifully framed. I mean, because it looks like her arms are cut off, and she's got the black drape and everything.
Yeah,
Eva Green. I mean, she's not. It's much like Liv Tyler in Stealing Beauty. She's not given a whole lot to work with in terms of acting, but as being that character, she's very good in that role, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, I've got a really fun recommend. This is a full recommend. This is like a hard recommend. This is
nice. I feel attacked.
You ever seen Margin Call?
I have.
Once.
Okay. I got this weirdly confused with a movie called Game Change. Now, Game Change is nothing like Margin Call because Game Change is about John McCain versus Barack Obama in 2008. And it could not be more different.
It's really more about Sarah Palin, to be honest.
Yes, exactly.
But
that's true.
Weren't they both HBO movies? I think there is some kind of connection.
Margin Call got a theatrical release.
Did it? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, this completely passed me by. So I caught it. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch that movie about Obama versus McCain. And it turns out here's Kevin Spacey arguing with Simon Baker and Demi Moore on my screen. I'm like, okay. So what this is an investment firm on Wall Street. It happens within 24 hours in an investment firm where somebody, a risk management analyst played by Stanley Tucci, the Tooch, has found,
as he's known,
yes,
in Hollywood circles. Hey, what do you think about the Tooch?
Hey, Tooch. Hey, Tooch. What do you want to do? You want to come be in my movie, Tooch? All right. We'll get lunch, Tooch. But he's a risk management analyst, and he finds something about this firm that is concerning. But before he can really finish this project, he is laid off, as with a bunch of people from this. Now, this is around 2007, okay? We all remember what happened around 2007, 2008. Before he leaves, he hands off his project to another risk management analyst played by Zachary Quinto, who helped produce this movie, by the way. Zachary Quinto gets together with his buddies at his level, played by Penn Badgley and Paul Bettany, who steals this movie from a lot of great people. Paul Bettany then gives it to his boss, played by Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey is high enough in this firm to say, fuck. We are fucked. So he brings in everybody. And by everybody, it's senior management played by Simon Baker, played by Demi Moore and Asif Manvi. And everybody gets together and says, hold on, what happens basically is that we're buying up mortgages. Sound familiar to The Big Short? Mm-hmm. Yes. We're buying up mortgages that are losing their value. If and we keep going on this thing, we're going to owe more than the company's worth, hence bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
Then they say, well, you going to call him? He says, yeah, we'll call him. And him turns into Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons is the CEO of this company. He comes into the board meeting. This is like midnight at this point. He comes into the board meeting. Everybody sits down and hashes it out. And from there, shit gets wild. Now, it gets wild in terms of it's very talky, all right? It's very backstabby. It's very manipulative. It's very play-like. But man, I dig this shit. This is so good. This is actors acting. You got Kevin Spacey versus Jeremy Irons, essentially, right? They're at different levels. Jeremy Irons is technically his boss, but you can tell that they're equals when it comes to intelligence, knowledge of things. Basically, what Kevin Spacey's character is saying is that if we go through this plan to save the company, we're going to wreck Wall Street. We're going to wreck the economy. But basically, Jeremy Irons is saying, I don't really give a shit about the economy. I don't really give a shit about Wall Street. We are going to survive. And if that means massive layoffs and all that stuff, we go with plan A or plan B. But plan A, which is, liquidating the company and everything and saving the company, requires Spacey's sign off, because otherwise the traders won't trade if he doesn't give the sign off. So there's this headbutting that's going on between these amazing actors. Meanwhile, the junior guys, the Penn Badgley and the Paul Bettany and the Zachary Quinto is fantastic in this, are all trying to figure out, if this is accurate. Okay, so I've set up the scene. One thing that completely sells this movie is that, Stanley Tucci's character has gone off. He's been fired, so he's gone home he's gone AWOL, basically. They can't find him. And so they finally find him as dawn is breaking, and they're trying to enact this plan. And so Paul Bettany asks him about, what do you think about this? You got to come back in and all that stuff. And Tucci gives this monologue about, he used to be an engineer and he built a bridge. And instead of commuting around this lake, people were able to go through this. And he starts doing these calculations. I saved this many minutes per drive per commute, and for this many cars and this many years. And I've saved over, 50 years of people's lives by building this bridge. And it's such an engaging scene that he's talking about math, but he will suck you in. And it's that kind of movie. And I've talked too long about it, but it's awesome.
I like how you talked for a good while. I loved your summary and your recommend of that. I am not in any way insulting, but right towards the end, you're like, okay, I've set the scene. And I was like, man, I thought you've been talking about this movie for 10 minutes.
I cannot recommend this movie enough. It is really, 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 really good. I could have just said that.
This guy did All Is Lost, and he did A Most Violent Year. He did Triple Frontier. But
I like almost all of those movies.
What's that?
I like almost all those movies.
But I haven't seen Margin Call since it came out. I think it was an HBO, maybe. I'm not sure if it was on HBO first. I can't remember. But I saw it.
I think it was a theatrical release.
I saw it around that time anyway.
For the record, Game Change is fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah, it is. And when you say HBO, you're right. Yeah, I saw it on HBO. It wasn't an HBO release, but I see what you mean.
But I really enjoyed it. I need to see it again because I know that I'd like it a lot more now than I did even then, and I liked it back then. So
well, I just set the scene, so let me tell you about the rest of it.
Okay, all right. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Cereal Box.
Cereal Box.
Mm-hmm. I delved back into the short stories again, and I found one from Ken Liu called Saboteur. And
en français.
Yeah.
Saboteur.
It's short, so I'm going to try to say as little as I can, but say what it's about basically. But it's about a man whose brother has died. He was a truck driver, and he wants to get back at the company that was responsible for it. And he's distrusting of new technologies and stuff. And the sort of the overarching thing that's happening here that truck drivers are going to lose their jobs due to the automatic truck driving computer systems and everything. And so it's very short. It's a 15-minute watch and listen. That's the thing about Cereal Box, is that you can hear a narrator read the book basically while you read the text on the screen. And there are many of these types of short stories that are on there.
Yeah, there are. You actually beat me to that one, which is fine because I ended up choosing one that I enjoyed. No disrespect to the previous two that I've read on this site because they're both great, but this one blew my mind. I read a short story called, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to say, #WeFlew. WEFLU. This is written by a guy named Stephen Barnes, who I was unaware with, but he has an Emmy Award-winning episode of The Outer Limits. He wrote for Stargate and Andromeda, and he's written a Star Wars novel that was a New York Times bestseller. And this is a recent story. Like, he straight up mentions coronavirus in this story.
Wow.
And the premise here is that the quarantine never ends, and that more and more viruses show up before the coronavirus quarantine ends. And this takes place 17 years in the future, and no one goes anywhere. And that's the norm. And they just call the collective deadly viruses out there the flu. And that's the initial hook. Well, maybe. This book takes the premise that there are as many foreign bacteria in our bodies as there are bacteria that our bodies produce. Like gut bacteria, for instance, is not something that our body produces. It's a foreign to our body bacteria that is sort of has a symbiotic relationship with us because it helps digest our food. So the premise is that this company in the future has figured out a way through this fictional technology called vibe entrapment, I think, to tell the foreign bacteria in our bodies what to do and how to behave. It reminded me a lot of Batman Begins, where he's got that limpy fabric and then runs a current through it and it takes a shape.
Oh, yeah.
Only much more sophisticated. Because this thing, the book opens with this thing basically, I think, giving him like some loving. And it's basically just this liquid looking mass of bacteria that comes out of his pores and massages his nerve endings. And basically, this company is trying to figure out how to sell more of them. And they're considering suggesting that they have personalities. These, I forget what they call them. He calls his Perry. And you think, well, that's okay. A couple cool concepts. Nobody goes anywhere. There's this new technology that can, like, massage my stuff whenever I need it. But, also apparently it thrives on carbon monoxide. So at night it curls up next to his pillow and sucks in all of his breath that he breathes out. And then there's this whole father-son angle that comes out of nowhere to me. And the suggestion that maybe everything I just read didn't even happen. I loved it. I love this. It's one of the things I love most about Serial Box is that it gives you estimated times. And again, you can toggle between reading or listening, or you can choose one all the way through. But mine said 8 minutes to read, 15 minutes to listen. And in this particular instance, when I was choosing to consume this material, I didn't have a full 15 minutes to listen to the audiobook at the moment. So I chose to read because it gave me the estimated time. I knew it'd be shorter to just read it myself. I was riveted. I want to read it again. It's one of those rare short story ideas that is close enough to our reality, but wild enough in concept that it just kind of sits in your head and spins around a little bit. So there's a 2 thumbs up for #WeFlew from Stephen Barnes.
Nice. Very nice. And of course, we're talking about Cereal Box, SERIAL, not the Smack'ems or the Frosted Flakes or whatever you got. This is like cereals, like, sequential stories. Some are short stories, and some are serials, like the one that I read about Thor, which is badass. It's Metal Gods, where Loki is a heavy metal guitarist.
Awesome.
And like he gets into a fight with the band member, but he's a space pirate, and then the worlds collide, and like the universe is at risk. And it's freaking awesome. But yeah, so I read the first one of that. I'm hooked. I'm going to read the rest of it.
That's awesome.
Cereal Box. Okay, so if you go to cerealbox.com/Scencast, you get 40% off select titles, or use the redeeming code Scencast, 40% off select titles. You can download it on all the mobile apps. Cereal Box is dope, man. We've had a really good time with it, and I'm going to read the crap out of this Thor Metal God. I was absolutely erect when I was reading this.
Oh my gosh.
It's so good.
Yeah, of course you were.
So yeah, go to cerealbox.com/Scencast or use the redeeming code Scencast. 40% off select titles. You're gonna love it, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Do we want to do some questions?
Let's do it, baby.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
I'm excited about this first one. This is right down the pipe for us. Is it pipe or pike, Chris?
Yep.
It's both,
Pike.
right?
Irregardless,
Mm.
your judgment with an E will not matter.
I've heard it both ways, though, right?
It doesn't matter. You know what? I found I was telling my wife the other day about toe the line and how it's TOE technically.
Mhm.
But in doing some research for similar phrases, I found, God, I'm going to forget which one it was. No, it's bated breath. Even the Harry Potter books use it wrong. So there you go.
But there's no I in there, right?
Right. It's baited like
BATED.
yeah, it's actually shortened from abated, meaning with bated breath means you're holding your breath. And to BAIT breath is gibberish, but that's in the Harry Potter books. The point is, one of the best-selling authors of all time got one wrong. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter.
Hey, gang, Casey here from California. Oh, nice. This is a fun game. A few of my lifelong friends and I are finally moving in together, and we decided that once a week we'll have a themed dinner and movie night. Basically picking a dinner and an alcoholic beverage and watching a movie related to it. Some examples we have so far are the following. Steak, whiskey sours, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like that. Spaghetti tacos, Four Locos, Hot Rod. I really like that. That's hilarious. And then calzone, white sangria, The Godfather. Sure, that works. Calzone.
I really feel like in 6 to 12 months, we're going to get another question from this person, and it's going to say, 6 months ago, my 5 best friends and I moved in together, and now we can't stand each other. What movies do you recommend for staying in your bedroom and ignoring your roommates?
We haven't had a movie night in 6 months.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
This is more down yous guys' alley than mine. Like I love food and everything, but I feel like you guys prepare more sophisticated items than I do. And while I have gone to some nice restaurants and have eaten some good things, I couldn't tell you what all of those things were all the time. So I kept it simple. Hell or High Water is a it's a very Texas movie. So we're going to get slow cooked brisket sandwich on Texas toast.
Very good.
And we're going to have some hickory smoked barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some slaw and some French fries with that. I went and looked at, made a quick Google search of the most popular Texas-made beers, and I found one called Carbach. Have you ever had Carbach before?
I have not.
The Bachs are big down there. Shiner Bach is another one that's really big. But yeah.
So that's what we're gonna have during our Hell or High Water pairing.
Slow cooked like their anger over the way their bank treated their mother's land.
That's correct. By the way, complete aside, I saw some cooking show that came up recommended, I guess because I had been watching a bunch of Babish and everything. And like they had it was a YouTube video of they had taken a some sort of amazing piece of meat that I can't remember the name of right now, and they cooked it for a month.
Oh my God.
And so like they cut off some stuff and they vacuum sealed it in a bag, and then they put it in this water and let it cook for a month.
Sous vide, yeah.
And then when they pulled it out, they're like, "Yeah, don't do this. Don't ever do this."
I only learned the other day that the ratatouille recipe at the end of Ratatouille, Thomas Keller, a real celebrity chef, consulted on the movie and created that recipe. And so I was like, fuck, man, I'm going to make this. And I clicked through and it's like prep time, 52 hours or some shit. Yeah. Like, you got to cook tomatoes for 2 days. And like, I'm never going to do this shit.
Yeah.
I actually think it was a 4-hour cook time, but I was immediately challenged and walked away.
If you can watch Gone with the Wind in the time that, I might as well. I'll just go ahead and do my other one, and then you guys can go. I also did one for the movie Go.
Sweet. Is there any meth? Did you sprinkle any meth on top of anything?
There's no meth, but now that you talk about it, I need to sprinkle some meth on them. Some things.
I think so. Some MDMA in here somewhere. It's just like a spice.
But it's actually aspirin.
It's actually aspirin. Yeah. I feel something. No, Go is a movie that I've always described as that perfect like night movie. Like you could watch this movie at 4:00 in the morning. If you were like, the type that would just stay up at all hours, Go at 4:00 would be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And the movie will give you the sense of having some sort of hangover by the end of it, because the way all these people are doing all sorts of drugs and they're staying up all night and they're doing all these different things. And by the morning, when the morning hits, there's this sort of like, oh my God, thank God that night's over and everything. So you need to have a meal like chicken and waffles in the morning. And you put some some honey barbecue over that chicken, and as a drink, I know that a bunch of friends of mine, when they were hungover, they used to drink more beer so that they wouldn't feel it and everything. So I was thinking something refreshing like a Blue Moon or a Hefeweizen or something like that, along with the chicken and waffles, and that would be the perfect Go meal.
It's amazing how many people have their own hangover cures instead of just drinking a 32-ounce glass of water before you go to bed and popping an ibuprofen. Because a hangover is quite literally dehydration. That's all it is. But people do all this. I know somebody that does like tomato sauce with like a shot dropped in it. And I'm like, well, okay, you're just getting buzzed again. But have some water before you go to bed, or even right when you wake up. Hangover's not that big a deal. Unless you drink like, am I crazy, Barrett? You're laughing like I'm wrong.
That's exactly what I would do during my harder drinking days was to, if I knew that I was going to have like all sorts of like, I knew it was going to be bad in the morning, I would take aspirin and drink a bunch of water, and it would always make it better.
Well, you've got to be with it enough at that point to do it.
That is also the other issue.
Gotten hangovers over the years for whatever reason. But whenever I do, you drink a bunch of water, you drink some Gatorade or something like that, you replenish. I usually eat some greasy food like chicken and waffles. Now, Go happens in LA, right? So that's like the epicenter of chicken and waffles.
Yeah, man.
There's several of those things out there.
Yeah.
I just read that 7% of people in the world never get headaches.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
What must it be like to be one of those fuckers?
No, shit.
Why aren't they walking around prancing like king of the castle? Like, I don't ever get headaches. Why aren't they like a club on Twitter, like bragging that shit? God.
I don't ever get
headaches are the worst. All right. You want me to go, Barrett?
Yes.
I prepared 3 menu and movie pairings. I took this way more seriously than I should have, and so I hope the question asker tries at least one of these.
Yeah.
First, the movie Sideways, which we are famously in love with. Now, I feel like this movie is about Miles stewing in his own self-loathing, but we are in wine country on the California coast, so the main entree is going to be seafood stew. Toasted stinky cheese, because I think there's a lot of sweaty scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
And then I am demanding you absolutely must drink Merlot.
Yeah.
By the way, there are some spectacular Merlots out there.
There are. In fact, the Coppola wines, the Merlot is the absolute best of all of those Francis Ford Coppola wines. In fact, that's the best Merlot I've ever had. Okay. Second one, The Matrix, my favorite movie. I figured out. Why not? We're going to go with Cypher's giant dry-aged ribeye.
Nice.
It needs to be at least 22 ounces. It looks like corn chowder to simulate the protein that they eat on the Nebuchadnezzar. And Thai noodles, because Neo makes this reference to that place that had great noodles. And we'll cap it off with a homemade chocolate chip cookie from the Oracle. And you serve this with a really good Pilsner. And I chose Scrimshaw because it's the best Pilsner I've ever had, and I can't get that shit in Tennessee, and it makes me sad.
Really?
Yes, I've only been able to get it in L.A. I think it's an L.A. local brewery.
Interesting.
But yes, and now my third one, I shouldn't have done 3. The Informant with Mark Watney? No, Mark
Whitaker.
This movie's all about corn, baby. So corn on the cob, cornbread, chicken breasts with corn salsa.
Nice.
Yeah.
But all the corn dishes will be labeled as soy or lima bean dishes as a blatant lie to basically simulate Mark's lying.
Yeah.
And then we're going to serve Moscato because it's very, very sweet. And the day will be sour as fuck. So you need to
Both of
Yeah.
you. This is good. This is good stuff. Nice.
There you
Nice.
go. I actually spent maybe 45 minutes on that, and I'm not even ashamed. It was a very fun question.
I spent nearly that much on that. So what I've got, I also really, really love this question. My first one is going to be Amelie, the Parisian movie from 2000, 2001, Chris?
2001, I think sounds right.
As I talked about before, I recently went to Paris, thankfully before all this craziness. And I had the most amazing, one of the meals that stuck out to me was the crepes. So we went to the University of Sorbonne, and outside of the Sorbonne, I Googled best crepes in Paris.
Hey, you're American. You can just call them crepes, buddy. It's all right.
Well, it's crepes. You call them crepes?
Americans that I talk to, we live in Tennessee, dude. Do you not talk to people?
Crepes, whatever.
I'm joking. Crepes is correct. I'm saying ignorant Americans would say crepes. I'm joking.
Crepes
you're
are
doing
crepes.
You're doing fine, young man.
But what we had, what you have in America typically are like sweet stuff, right? Like you get strawberry, cream cheese, or whatever the hell.
Exactly, like dessert.
Yeah. And you can get that there. In fact, my son plowed through like 6 of them, the sweet ones.
Wait. On
What?
Seinfeld, there's a whole episode about rolling crepes, and they call them crepes.
They do call them crepes. You're correct.
Yeah, with the Dominicans that aren't Cuban.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
They
sorry.
roll
I'm
them too
sorry.
tight.
I'm sorry. That's it. I'm just saying Americanized. I think people say crepes, but crepes
All
is
right.
correct. And you went to Paris, so you can go ahead and
Crepe.
stick your nose in the air.
Tomato. But what we had were savory crepes, and they were fucking amazing. I'm talking about like fontina and mushroom and like spinach and like ham, jambon, and cheese and stuff like that. Oh my God. It was the most amazing thing. So you have to make,
I was just going to ask if you know what makes crepe different from a pancake or a tortilla. Like, what is it made from that?
super thin. I think there are various things, just like pancakes. I think there are various recipes, but
it's
it's basically
texture.
a pancake recipe, just lighter and flatter. Super, and it's got to
Awesome.
be made on that little thing. They used to have it across the street in the park at the Museum of Modern Art in Chicago. At the farmers market, they would make their own crepes, and they'd have the special like crepe tool on the big platter, and they're just super thin, and you roll them up, and you get them done right. It's amazing.
I learned on Frasier that you have to season your crepe pans.
Yeah, of course, because otherwise you won't be able to flip them and move them and stuff like that.
I never knew what it meant, but I've seen that episode of
I don't have a crepe pan, but whatever. Anyway, you should
like
do
that.
that. You should also have some mussels and crusty bread. I had some mussels out there with this wonderful garlic broth, crusty bread. You dip them in there. Oh my God! Especially if you eat it by the river or the sea, it's fantastic. And also, and you can get my favorite thing about being in France was the wine, and particularly the rosé. So in Provence, they make the most famous rosé wine. Never was a fan of rosé. It's too sweet. It's too sour. It's too weird. But in France and in Provence in particular, they have like almost a clear rosé, and it is spectacular. So, and you can get it here. You can get good rosé here. So get some crepes, get some mussels and crusty bread, and get some rosé and watch Amelie.
Isn't it rosé what Mad Men's getting drunk on the beach and Get Out? I mean, us.
Okay, you just went like 9 different ways right there. So even I can't follow you on this one.
Elizabeth Moss has said something like, this rosé is delicious. And then her husband says, oh, you're going for thirds, right? Am I wrong?
It sounds
I know my
right.
labels were all
No,
wrong.
she's on the beach, yes, with Lupita Nyong'o, yes. And I think she's drinking rosé.
I have had rosé twice served as a dish pairing at a restaurant, and both times found it to be awesome. But like you, I have not had a rosé that I picked myself that I've ever really enjoyed. It's very sweet.
We literally in Nice, in the old Nice, there's like this old like tunnel ways, basically alleyways, and in the middle of like a cave, there was a little kiosk, like a little like convenience store. And in one of the displays that had Diet Coke and shit like that, there was like a bottle of rosé. And we were like, all right, it's $3 or something like that. It was the best rosé I've ever had.
Awesome. Awesome.
So,
Probably
yeah.
helps that you were in France, but
Anyway, you can get it for $17 or something like that here. So have that meal, Casey. I've got a couple more if you guys have, a couple minutes.
hit me.
All right. So recently, I had the pleasure of watching Hobbs and Shaw.
Yep.
I did this too.
Oh God! Oh God!
So you had much pleasure watching Hobbs and Shaw,
God, that fucking movie, dude.
right?
The kid wanted to watch it,
Mm-hmm.
and man, watching his face light up when I finally said, "All right," I did that Jerry Seinfeld, like, "All right," he enjoyed it. But Jesus Christ! So what I want to pair with is a cheese stuffed, sausage filled pizza. You wad that thing up. You put meat around it. You make it into a burger. So you got a pizza into a burger. Then you want to dump that in the deep fryer.
This
Right?
is starting to sound like that SNL commercial for Taco Town.
Then you take it out. You wrap it in a tortilla. You then bread that, right? And then you throw it back in the fryer and make a chimichanga, right? So now you got a pizza, or you got a sausage in a pizza, in a burger, in a chimichanga. And then you get a case of Bud Light Lime, which will make you feel great in the morning.
Right?
And you just hoof that shit down. It won't even make you drunk. It'll just like piss you off. And then you gnaw into the chimichanga pizza burger sausage thing. And that'll be a perfect compliment to Hobbs and Shaw.
We're definitely relitigating movie recipes with that one right there.
You know what's funny is I have hooked Dicer on Top Chef, and so occasionally he will privately message me something about Top Chef. And he said, episode 4 of season 4 is movie recipes. And I go, oh no, what do you mean? And he was like, everybody had to cook something inspired by a movie. And I was like, we ripped it off. And he was like, not really. They all did really lame things. And they were like, oh, it's an Italian movie? I'm going to make lasagna or whatever.
Yeah.
Like nobody put any thought into it like the people on our movie recipes.
Well, you could also say that they then ripped you off again because when Charlize came in season 10, when did Snow White and the Huntsman come out?
Was that
2012.
2012. Was
that when that girl put a chicken foot on the black chicken foot on the
Yes.
plate? That was a fucking awesome episode.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. But it was a movie recipe. It wasn't. I don't think it was even inspired by her movie. It was any movie at that point. So they repeated themselves.
Interesting.
Anyway,
I also feel bad for Dicer because he's rooting for Blaze.
Oh,
season 4,
and he doesn't know.
Well, he might by the time this airs.
It's like the end of 7 where Kevin Spacey like lets out the fact that she pled for the life that was inside her, and Morgan Freeman slaps him before but it's too late, and Kevin Spacey's like, oh, he didn't know.
I have a jokey answer, by the way. It mostly jokey. If you have bacon and pancakes, 8 lines of cocaine, and a bottle of whiskey, watch Pulp Fiction.
There you go.
Ooh,
Blueberry pancakes.
You can blueberry pancakes, yeah,
Bacon tastes
with
good.
bacon. Bacon tastes good.
Yeah.
I've been eating a lot of bacon lately.
They
so
didn't have any. I had to get buttermilk.
You grab yourself a bottle of whiskey. You know what's Vincent, I still don't ever understand this. Vincent is high off his balls when he gets to Mia's house, right? And so he's just kind of wandering around, and it's the 2 African fellows, and he does the thing. But then, like, all of a sudden, he's pretty cool. Like, he just kind of shakes it off. He goes over, sniffs the bottle, has a drink, walks around, and then she does the thing, drives her completely fine over to Jackrabbit Slim's, and then he has a normal conversation with her.
I don't think that conversation could be described as normal, but I get your meaning.
I mean, it's as normal as those characters would have if they were sober.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not the madman. If he did that and he came out of that shit that quick, that's not the madman. He should be on his ass for like 12 days.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I love that part in Hustlers when Constance and J-Lo are working on the recipe for the stuff they're drugging guys with, and it cuts from them like leaning in to sniff it to them like both completely passed out on the floor like hours later.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Keep going to Scencast, presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Discord. And if you want to get on Discord, you can either go to our Reddit page and find a link on the right side of the page there, or you can private message me on Facebook and I'll give you a link there. But that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I saw that scene from 21 Jump Street the other day. It was on just before I went to bed. It was just getting to that, and I was like, I got to watch this part.
That's nearly a perfect scene from start to finish, because you have they take it and then they stick their fingers in each other's mouths.
Yeah.
And then they have that whole thing with the coach, and then it's off and running. And he's like, I got a crow. You know what I did read all the way through? And I rarely read books, but I'm trying to do like sleep hygiene, where you're actually like turning off the TV and the phones and all that stuff. And reading like actual books before you go to bed. So I've been reading a lot lately. And I read Drew Magary's new book. And it's weird because it's good. It's called Point B. It's like a transportation, like port anywhere that you want to. Very similar to Amelie and the Ables, where you can port wherever you want to. Everybody can port wherever they want to, but it's owned by this evil organization called Portsys. And the main character is a female lesbian 17-year-old, and like he writes it very, very well. It's a very compelling book and everything. But like having read his columns for so long, I cannot imagine that voice in a 17-year-old lesbian girl.
Let me say this. What does sound right is the balls it would take to write something like that for a middle-aged white man. Like I would never have the courage to write that. And that sounds like a Drew Magary thing. He's the kind of guy that would do something most people would not dare to try, and I bet it's pretty good. It
is really good. I bet actually you guys would like it. Want to try it in the nose?
Yeah.
Hey, French my hole, baby. Somebody also asked me on the fly in a script to do a Paul Giamatti, and I think I got like halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that was me.
It felt like a Barrett.
What was it? It was a Giamatti. It was I'm not drinking fucking Merlot. Or it's something about Merlot.
As long as you get close to the like cadence of how something is said, then nobody cares if it sounds exactly like it.
I agree. And even further than that, they will say it's a really good impression as long as you get close to the cadence.
Yes.
Your Pacino on the which one was that? It was Vanity is my favorite sin, and then it was no Lust. Oh, it was Alien 3. That's what it was. Your Pacino was good.
You like that? Vanity.
I tell you what I did see. I saw your boy Denzel in Out of Time.
Oh.
I'd never seen that movie before.
Out of
Time.
Decent.
It's hilariously dramatic.
It's
hilariously.
It's absurd.
Every shot is a zooming close-up. Like it starts back here, and then it's...
Mm-hmm.
And it's Denzel like pouring sweat, like flop sweat from the Miami Heat or whatever it is. Miami.
I saw that movie, but I couldn't tell you what it's about.
It's him covering up his tracks, even though he hasn't done anything wrong. Mm-hmm. And the bad guy is Dean Cain.
And of course he is.
Wait, which one is this? I thought Out of Time was the hospital one where he.
No, that's John Q.
John Q.
There was a period of time where Denzel Washington was coming out with basically the same movie every time he came out with something new, but they all made the same amount of money every weekend. Like it was like the new Denzel made $22 million this on its opening weekend, and then it would make its total of 60 or 70 million, and then get out of theaters. But like in that out of time period, he was making a lot of those types of movies.
It's I'm sure you've seen this movie, but it's him where he's the chief of police and he's in the Hawaiian shirt the whole time.
Okay, yeah.
And he's sleeping with the girl, but then she turns up dead.
Eva Mendes.
Eva Mendes is his ex, who's now like a highfalutin detective.
If I got the movie right, I don't care if I got her character wrong. I'm impressed enough that she's in that movie.
I don't know what the age difference is, but it's not believable.
Is it?
Eva Mendes and Denzel Washington. It's a good 20 years.
Yeah.
Is it Tommy Lee Jones and blonde ER ladies?
Blonde ER ladies
from the Viggo Mortensen movie about being a killer.
Maria Bello
and Tommy Lee Jones. Is it that different?
What movie is that?
It's this Ben Affleck, Kevin Costner movie called it's about losing your job during the market crash of 2008 or whatever.
Oh.
What?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never seen it.
I briefly mentioned it like a year ago.
I remember this movie, though.
It's no good, but Affleck loses his job. And
I remember you mentioning
it. Yeah. Chris Cooper, I think, is here. But Tommy Lee Jones is like the boss, and he and Maria Bello are sleeping together.
Tommy Lee is 70, probably 76.
I'll tell you whatever the age gap is between them on screen, it looks twice as big.
Well, you could cut a tree with that jaw.
Yeah, you could. You could.
Really? Okay.
Seriously, it's jagged, man.
No, I know what you mean.
You can shave. You could accidentally shave.
What an analogy!
Beard.
I've never heard that one. That's what an analogy. That's
They in that Showbiz Kids, which one of you is going to bring up later. I felt like if they could have, I don't know if Brooke Shields just wasn't available or if she didn't want to talk about it or what, but that would have been fascinating.
Yep.
When they got to Brooke Shields, I was like, oh shit, we're going to hear some shit now. And they, kind of lightly dusted Pretty Baby and Blue Lagoon and then just kind of went away from Brooke Shields.
Well, and they didn't even interview her, right?
No.
All that footage for her was archival, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they did mention Return to the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
With Mila Jovovich.
Right. Yeah, remember when Dr. Dre showed up at the end of that one track that Eminem did, and they said, yeah, that album's coming out, and then it was like Chinese Democracy linked with time.
It was the aftermath, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody you hate?
Yeah.
Try to bring WA? NWA.
This is the Kids Are All Right, where the kids find Julianne Moore and Annette Bening's porn or whatever.
Yeah.
And Julianne Moore says something about like, I can't get into it because these actresses are not really lesbians, and you have to really search to find the good stuff or something like that. I can't remember.
Let's just go ahead and start this podcast. What the fuck are we doing?
By the way, did I say it right? Is it Emmeline? It is Emmeline, right?
Yeah, it's Emmeline.
I think that's how I was pronouncing it in my head. Emmeline.
Yeah, it was the Ben Folds inspired.
You've heard that? I thought that was like a B-side that nobody's heard.
If it is, I at one point I owned the first 3 albums. I owned everything they put out.
Oh, that's on Naked Baby Photos, though, right? Like it's on one of his early ones. It's a live song, right?
Yeah. Her voice is what?
Getting deeper and deeper. She's going to sound like Leonard Cohen by the time she's 35.
Mm-hmm. Give me that crack.
I was thinking more Fleetwood Mac, but okay.
We can't stop. I came in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah, I actually do have one. There was a movie, a porno movie, that was considered the best porn movie of all time, like cinematically, Thunderclap. And I watched it with a bunch of buddies. We weren't jerking it or anything like that.
Right.
And it was a riotous time. It was wonderful. We were talking, it was a bunch of film students. We were talking about like how, like, you know, the shot was framed and all that stuff. And I probably don't want to watch that movie again. So maybe I do have an answer.
But yeah, I need to see Thunderclap. No, you know what I'm talking about with Picasso Trigger?
I don't.
No.
There was this director. Jonathan's the only person who knows, along with me. But there's this guy named Andy Sidaris who used to come out with all these, like, you know, action movies with just millions of titties in them all the time. That was basically what those movies were. And they would always play it on like Cinemax and stuff like that late at night. And my first, I didn't watch Picasso Trigger when I was 8 or anything like that, but I watched it when I was probably 19 or 20 or something like that.
Nice.
And you know, those are some great times when you can sit down with an Andy Sidaris movie and you know, watch some dumb action, some terrible acting, and some titties.
Yeah.
Like in Clerks, where Randall runs out, like, "You're not allowed to rent here anymore," and Jason Mewes is like, "Yeah."